I got donked 6 times. Let's talk about that. Welcome back, everyone, to the TrueChampionSteven channel. My name is Steven Rodriguez. I'm your True Champion, and today we're talking about the Naic. Quite specifically, the deck that I played for the Naic and the matchups that I faced throughout the main Masters TCG event. I sadly had a record of 5-4, not my most amazing tournament I've ever been a part of when it comes to the Pokemon TCG. I honestly disappointed myself a lot, but in terms of the entire trip as a whole, I did have an amazing time nonetheless. And all the losses that I had, realistically, you'll hear more about that later, there's really nothing that I could have done. So that's a positive, I guess. It's just the world didn't want me to do well at this tournament. It's not really, at the end of the day, my fault. Now, there will be things that I'll mention that I could have done differently in hindsight, but we'll talk about that later. But anywho, the trip, as I said, was amazing. You guys will learn more about that later on this week when the vlog for the said trip to the Naic and Ohio comes out. I cannot wait to show you guys that vlog. It's going to be amazing. It goes live hopefully Friday. I'll make some big tweets and some Instagrams and whatnot about it when it does go live, because it's going to be a pretty big video, hopefully. It's going to take me a lot of time to edit, but I'm looking forward to it. But anywho, like I said, we'll be doing my deck profile and my tournament report for the Naic today. I played Baby Blacepehlon, if you didn't know already, and I'm really excited to share this with you because I honestly had an amazing time, like I said, and I think that it's worth mentioning Baby Blacepehlon still, even though the Unbroken Bonds format is now over, because, well, I think Baby Blacepehlon is still going to be a very good non-GX deck moving forward because, well, it's one of the only non-GX decks that actually can still do stuff after post-rotation, so that's pretty awesome. But anyway, with all that being said, I think you guys get the gist of what this video is about. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tick that bell for notifications so that way you guys know when my videos go live for you. And now, with all that being said, I'm super excited to bring you guys this video. Let's go ahead and hop into TCGO right now so I can show you guys my Baby Blacepehlon deck profile. Let's go. Alright everyone, here we are in TCGO. Here you see the deck. Quite simply, the deck is literally Zach Salazzle, top, I think it was top 16. He could have been 17th place at the Origins special event. It is his exact list except for one key difference that I thought at the time was important. I cut an Ultra Ball that he played for a Field Blower. Everything else about the deck is completely the same. He played the 2-2 Salazzle, the 4 Blacepehlon, the 1 Blacepehlon GX, the 14 Fires, the 1 Beast, the 1/1 Stadium Count, the 2 Bills Analysis, which honestly is the best card in this deck. Bills Analysis is so good. The double B String, which is honestly, the double B String, which is honestly busted and amazing. The 1 Recycler, which is so much better than playing Victini for some star. I can't even stress. 3 Flint, 4 Crystal, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Pokegear Standard. 1 Stretcher. Honestly, it was a little low, but I think in the long run it's okay because you have the 5 attackers, so once you just lose 3 of them, no matter which ones they are, you just shuffle them all back in. That's all the attackers you need in any given game, so you never really actually just like plop one back into your hand. You most often just shuffle them all back in the deck, and then use effects like Nest Ball or Ultra Ball to search them back out. And the Ultra Balls are in here because they're the best way you have to search for Salazzles and your attackers. Because you can't really play Pokecom because you don't run that many Pokemon, and then you can't really do like Great Ball or anything because, again, you don't run that many Pokemon, so Ultra Ball is your best bet. Also, you don't really care about discarding too many cards because you have a lot of excess fire energies a lot of the time, and you're discarding them anyway for your abilities. Only the 2 Baton, which did feel kind of low to me, but most of the time you only ever attach 1, and as long as 1 sticks per any game you need Baton, you're generally good to go. Because we played the double B String, you kind of like either do 3 Baton and 1 B-String, or 2 B-String and 2 Baton. I've noticed in my testing that was like the best way to kind of do the splits there for any kind of energy accelerating card that isn't Welder, and I felt like this was the perfect split to go for the tournament, and it honestly was. So in hindsight, you'll find out later that this list, the biggest problem that it had was searching for Pokemon, because sometimes you just don't get any Pokemon in play, you have to just Welder, and sometimes you just Welder into 3 Fires, or you Welder into just a bunch of trainer cards that aren't searching for Pokemon. I tried my very darndest to be able to go, okay, Bill's Analysis can search for Nest Balls, it can search for your supporters, it can search for your Heat Factory and try and draw more cards, it can search for Ultra Balls, all that kind of stuff. But the deck ultimately just did lack Pokemon search, and because of that, I ended up getting donked a lot. A lot more than I definitely would have liked to have been donked. So if I were to change anything about this deck, I definitely would cut the Viridian Forest for an Ultra Space is the first cut that I would make, because Viridian Forest literally didn't do anything for me all throughout the tournament. I felt like if I would had Ultra Space instead, it definitely would have been a game changer for me, because there were so many times off of my Bills analysis where I never saw Nest Ball, but I definitely saw Viridian Forest, and then it could have obviously become an Ultra Space, and I could have searched for a Pokemon and then not gotten donked, for as an example. Also, just having that nice extra way to search for a Blacephylon or a Blacephylon GX, like a turn-by-turn kind of effect that can just last forever, is honestly super awesome. And it's honestly the most preferred counter stadium, I think, in this deck besides Heat Factory, because Viridian Forest, I found myself not wanting to put it into play against a lot of decks because I didn't want to give them the ability to Viridian. So having Viridian be my second stadium of choice besides Heat Factory, I honestly think was not the best call. And other than that, I will admit that I probably should have tried to find a better space for the Field Blower other than the Ultra Ball, but at the time it felt like the most cuttable thing, because in my testing I never had any problem with Pokemon Search. But in the actual gameplay itself, that was the biggest problem that I had all throughout the tournament. Everything else was pretty standard. Also, another thing that I thought would be smart now that I've seen the tournament is John Ang and I think Rahul Reddy played the same 60 of Baby Blacephylon, but they played greens, and they played like a really heavy, like Lieutenant Surge, like quad Baby Blacephylon, and like that's it engine with like greens and like Welder and like Lieutenant Surge, and they played like Guzma. I think they played like 2 Guzma, 1 Counter Catcher. I really like the inclusion of Counter Catcher in this deck. I think with the fact that I was playing Bills, I definitely could have seen myself putting Counter Catcher in here to try and chase those tag team Pokemon that my opponent was trying to retreat to the bench and keep safe, whilst also playing Welder in the same turn. Seemed really cool. Or, like I said, playing Bills and like getting a Fire Crystal or something as well. You could have just like also had the Counter Catcher in hand or drew it off of Roast Reveal and Welder. However, with regards to that Greens build and this Salazzle build, I will say that I think the Bills Salazzle build is still the superior way to build Baby Blacephylon, because obviously you could see from the top 4 match, you know, from NAIC, the only reason that Nathaniel lost was because A, he ran out of resources, and B, in game 1 he got Marshadowed and dead drew. You know, this deck, if you set up a Salandit and a Blacephlon, or 2 Salandit, 2 Blacephlons, you kind of just like never lose, because you always have a comeback factor. You know, being able to Bills into Heat Factory plus Salazzle, or Heat Factory, then Heat Factory into Salazzle, then Roast Reveal into double Fire Crystal, you just win the game. Like, it's honestly insane. The mid-game and late game of this deck is honestly so powerful, which is why I valued it, because to me, the best way to beat Blacephlon at the time was to just let them set up whatever they wanted to do, and then in the middle of the game, once they went for our big greens or something, and they have like a bunch of cards in hand, go for a Marshadow, kill their only energy Pokemon in play, and then say it's your turn. Well, to me, this deck had an amazing response to that in, okay, double Roast Reveal, B-String, and then built analysis for Fiery Flint, boom. Instant response. I did that like at least 3 times against people, every time they mid-game Marshadowed me, and so I found that this was the best way to build Blacephlon, and I still stand by that. I also still stand by Blacephlon being an amazing call for this tournament, because I think 5 of my 9 matches were against tag team Pokemon GX, and it felt like the only way I lose those matchups is if I can't set up or if I get donked, and that's kind of what happened for 2 of them. But the other 3 I ended up just slaughtering no matter what. Like, I almost found myself being like, you know what, game 2 is kind of going slow, I want plenty of time for game 3. I would scoop in the middle of a game that I was actually able to win, just to have a more commanding position for game 3, and then I would just win in like 10 minutes. It's honestly an insane deck against any tag team GX deck, so I really did like it going into this tournament. It's also really good against like Gardevoir GX, which had some like hype around it. I did play against one. We'll talk more about that later. It's also good against Zoroark in the sense that you just trade very well against all their attackers, and against them in general. So if you can get like the first attack off, pretty much you kind of just like always win, which is super cool. The one thing that's also like really not great about the deck is that it is very linear. You know, there's no really anything I can do besides just attack my opponent and hope it's enough to win the game. And so my opponent can actually outplay me a lot. So the lack of, you know, diversity, or the lack of playability for the deck is kind of bleak, and it is like a factor that I don't like. For example, a really good Dugong Zoroark player can beat you because they can just do more stuff than you can, and they can avoid you winning the game, so thus you ran out of resources, or you just don't have enough to finally end the game, and then they beat you. That's a thing that could obviously happen. I didn't end up playing against any Zoroark Dugong, but if I did, that was the only way that I was going to lose. If they ran me out of resources and played around my attacks too much to the point where I just couldn't win the game. I definitely think the Naganado Zoroark GX deck that ended up winning, it's either a 50-50, depending on when they go for Stinger GX or if they go for it at all. because we do play the high count of Beast Ring, which means we can instantly respond with a KO even if they judge us, is number one. Or if it's the Dugong variant, I think you do lose because they could just like set up like 2 knockouts, right, with a Dugong, then go for Stinger GX when you like have 1 prize card left. At that point, you would have already expunged probably so many resources to get like 1 prize card remaining, to the point where you probably can't even take your last 3, and then they just kill your only 2 attackers that are in play, and then you lose. So I don't really know how the matchup went. I might test it in the future, but it doesn't really matter to test it anymore because Zoroark GX is now not legal in standard for any major tournament, so what's the point? But this deck is actually almost entirely legal, if I'm not mistaken. The only cards you lose are Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, and Guzma, and Field Blower, but Field Blower isn't even really normally in the deck. Oh, and Baton, you lose Baton, but you keep Beast Ring, so you just go like 4 Beast Ring and like who cares? Everything else though is still legal. I'm pretty sure energy retrieval is, but these are old energy retrievals, so I can't tell based off of these ones. But anywho, that's my thoughts on this deck. I thought it was a really good call for the tournament. I still stand by everything I said. The only changes that I would definitely make is taking out Viridian for Ultra Space, maybe putting the Field Blower back to an Ultra Ball. Oh, let me talk about the Field Blower really quick. The Field Blower was put in here because I was afraid of only really 2 matchups. I was afraid of Weezing. I didn't like the Weezing matchup going in. I didn't feel so confident in it that I could win every single time I played against it, so I wanted a little extra nudge against it, and no one ever expects you to play your own Field Blower in this deck. So I really did enjoy playing the Field Blower, and it actually came in clutch a couple times against like a Reshizard, where I locked them for a turn with a Jirachi, so they had to whiff a knockout. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now I went Guzma and killed their only Reshizard in play. That was pretty cool. Another thing is, Zap Beasts? I ended up getting rid of their skateboards too, so they had to expunge a switch, an energy on their Jirachi or something to retreat, and then they didn't have enough to go for Tapu Koko GX the next turn, which was super cool. And other like niche scenarios, Field Blower is just like a good card, getting rid of stadiums, getting rid of other stuff. But it was also there for the mirror match, which I did expect. I actually expected a lot more by Blacepehlon than there actually turned out to be. And one ended up getting top 4, I thought it was actually be a really popular deck. But in the orange bracket that I was in, I think there's only like maybe 10 of like the 500 players, and I was one of them. So I was like, wow, that's really weird. I thought this deck was a super good call for the tournament, because to me, the best deck for the day was Zap Beasts. But everyone was like, no, Picarom's the best deck for the day. And this deck takes like a 50 to like slightly unfavored against Picarom, depending on how stacky they get. We'll talk about that later, because I did play against 2 Picaroms, and I did lose to both of them. We'll talk about why later. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing this deck. I would not change my call. I would change my deck just a little bit. I think Field Blower should stay, but it would have been very easy to talk me out of it. And if you were able to convince me to put Counter Catcher into Guzma, I definitely probably would have done that, because I don't know, I only used Guzma like maybe once or twice to win a game. Other than that, I just always discarded it or prized it to the point where like it just didn't matter. This deck just doesn't really care about Guzma. You just kind of like kill whatever's in front of you a lot of the time. The only reason Guzma's in here is that if you need to either chase something or, God forbid, you need to be able to get something out of the active. A lot of the times, though, you don't really need to get stuff out of the active in this deck, because everything's either an attacker or has 1 retreat cost. So it's super easy to manage. Like sometimes what I'll do is I'll welder to a Salazzle, just 1 energy, and then just draw 3 cards, retreat into it, and then have my Blacepehlon that was already ready to attack. Like, it just doesn't matter, because like it's like, oh, I'm drawing 3 cards and retreating at the same time. It's basically what you're doing, so that's super neat. I think this deck is super good. I definitely recommend it to anyone that wants a really good non-GX deck / really good fire deck for next format, and definitely mess around with it if you haven't already. But yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about my rounds. I'll leave the deck list up and stuff while we do that. So yeet. Okay, I don't know why I yeeted. I just had to grab my phone. Alright, let's talk about my round 1. Believe it or not, my round 1 was against Reshizard, which is actually a deck that I didn't expect to play against that much. I ended up playing against it 3 times in total. I won all 3 matches, but let's still talk about it anyway. The very first game of the day, though, I played against Reshizard, and I actually started my Blacepehlon GX, which honestly is the worst starter in the deck. You almost never want to start Blacepehlon GX because you are a non-GX deck. It's basically the equivalent of, starting Tapu Koko GX in a Zapdos deck. He has 2 retreat cost. He really doesn't actually have a good attack that helps us. The real reason Blacepehlon GX is in here is for Burst GX / he is an alternate attacker that has actually a lot more HP. So sometimes against like wheezing, like super late game, when your opponent only has 2 prize cards left, one prize card left to take, and you have 2, you just have your only Pokemon in play be Blacepehlon GX, you put him in play for the first turn, you take 1 knockout, and then you go Burst GX the next turn for the game. If they cannot kill you on that turn, you can guarantee win the game off of him, and that's the point of him. He's really only used for Burst GX, but starting with him really sucks too, because you have to Mind Blown at least 1 time, and depending on how many energies you have to get rid of off your Mind Blown, that can really hinder your setup for Fireball Circus late game. By the way, for those that don't know, if I didn't mention this, Fireball Circus is the main attack of the deck. Discard as many fire energies from your hand as you'd like. 50 damage times the number of fire energies. This is our main way of doing damage in the deck. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that earlier. If you guys don't know what Baby Blacepehlon GX does, that's what he does. And if you don't know what, I should probably mention this as well, if you don't know what this does, discard a fire energy, draw 3 cards. Boom. It's busted trade. Okay, I apologize for not explaining things better. But anywho, so game 1, it says here, turn 2, oh yes, okay, so yeah, I was playing against Reshizard. I took a KO on his Volcanion that he started because I believe I went second. Yes, because I went second and I played a Welder. I discarded, I Mind Blown away 3 energies and did 150, knocked him out. And then oh, yeah, okay, sorry. This is actually really funny. My opponent actually only had a Volcanion. He started Volcanion and then nothing else. He said pass. I went second. I went Welder attached, blew him up. I donked him. That's what happened. I donked him. I couldn't read my own type language here. I donked him is what that says. So that's pretty funny. And I actually said to him, wow, I'm normally the one that gets donked. I shouldn't have said that, because then I proceeded the rest of the tournament to be donked a total of 6 times. And I will mention each time I get donked, and you might hear my voice get saltier and saltier as we say that. But anywho, game 2, basically what happened is he set up, he did everything he wanted to. I set up, I did everything I wanted to. I had double Blown, 1 Salazzle. I knocked something out on my second turn of the game. He proceeds to knock out my Baby Blown with his Reshizard. I had a Wishawatan in play. And then out loud he says, you need double Fire Crystal to win this game. And then I just go, okay, draw. Here's double Fire Crystal. And I just flashed it to him, got 6 energies, blew up his Reshizard, and then it's your turn. I have 2 prize cards remaining to his 5. And then he just kind of scooped it up, because all he had in play was like double Jirachi. Sorry, no, it was actually greens. He had double Volcanion and no energy in play. So it was like, you win. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that was the end of my round 1. It was actually kind of a very, very close match. He was a very, very nice man. I'll say this really quickly right now. Even though I proceed to get donked several times by players, and those are the only reasons why I lose some of my rounds, I played against nothing but fabulous, fabulous people out the gate. I'll even mention some of them by name, because I thought they were super cool, and if you ever play against this person in the future, you might know who they are. And a huge shout out to them. The round 1 opponent's name was Hank. He was actually very nice and awesome. We actually chatted a little bit. If you guys did not know, I don't think I mentioned this in the vlog, but I actually surveyed each of my opponents after our game, because I had a lot of questions for them about content and content creation when it comes to the Pokemon TCG, as well as competitive card game TCG, because as I'm sure some of you may know, that's my main source of content here on YouTube and on Twitch. And I just had some questions, and they were all so helpful and gave some really amazing insights into everything. And I'm actually going to be applying some of the things that we talked about in the future, so that's super cool. Huge shout out to them. Alright, round 2, I played against another Reshizard, but this one was different. So round 1, I played against Greens. Round 2, I'm playing against Turbo, and he actually played like Fire Toolbox. So he had Flareon GX in there, he had EV Snorlax, he had Volcanion, he had Reshiram, the non-GX Reshiram with Outrage, and he had Reshizard. So it was actually like really interesting, and he piloted the deck very well. I will give that to him, but again, it's Reshizard. He has to attack with at least 1 GX per game, because he just can't keep up with my non-GX method. But game 1, though, he does do a really good job of just trying to go aggro with his non-GX Pokemon, like Reshiram and Volcanion, but eventually he has to lay down a Snorlax and go, please don't kill Snorlax and Marshadow, and I go, okay, double Rose Reveal, Heat Factory. I again go double Fire Crystal, blow up Snorlax, and then he's like, good job. And then he scooped up. We went to game 2. This is the first donk of the day. Basically, he goes first. I say, I draw. I think it's a Big Blown. Yeah, it's a Big Blown. I have a Big Blown GX in the active. I draw. I literally go Bills. I grab Fiery Flint, and I grab Welder. I play Fiery Flint. I draw 4. I burst GX, and then I say pass. And then he goes, okay, Welder, Double Blaze, knock you out. And I'm like, cool. Welder Double Blaze, knock him out. Anywho. Oh, and then game 3, he starts Reshazard. I start Blacepehlon. I'm going first. I get a Salazzle and a Blacepehlon. I attach to the active, and then I play a Cynthia, and then I pass. It's his turn. He goes Kiawe to the active Reshazard, and it's my turn. And I'm like, oh, okay. I draw. I go Fiery Flint, Welder, into Salazzle, Heat Factory, play double, play another Fiery Flint, and then I discard 8 energies, and I blow up his Reshazard as game 2. My opponent's name was Anthony, and, oh, wait, no, he actually had a Jirachi. I didn't donk him. I just killed his only Reshazard in play. And then I have 3 prize cards. And then I just proceed to go knockout, Burst GX. Because he actually was able to kill everything that I had that had energy. And so the only way that I could win was getting Burst GX off. That was a different game that I'm thinking of. But it says right here, yeah, I won by Burst GX that game. Because I took odd prize cards, and then he knocked out my only 2 attackers, and all I had was a Salandit. But I ended up wishful batoning from my last dead Blacepehlon to the only Pokemon I had in play, which was Salazzle. But off the prize cards from the last turn, I took my Blound GX, I benched him, I attached the fire, I retreated, and I went Burst GX. That's what happened in game 3. Yes, I remember. That was actually a really close game, even though I started off just blowing up his big dude. That was actually really impressive by him to kind of run it back. He was like a few prize cards away from winning, but he got rid of all my aggression. I also still had Beast Rings available, but I just didn't draw any. Alright, and that was against Anthony. Very nice man, very amazing deck, and huge shout out to him. He was actually a fellow content creator. If I can remember to put it in the show notes below, I'll leave a link to his channel if I can find it. But yeah, that was a very close game. Double crystals, man. Double crystal is like the best move in the game, for sure. Alright, round 3 I ended up playing against actually a friend of mine, a local player here from Cali. His name's Jacob, super sweet guy. His brother is a really good friend of mine. We actually test together every now and then. His name's Aaron Friedman. Some of you might know him as the Zoro Garb King, or whatever you want to call him. But anyway, he was playing Gardevoir GX with the Dene and Swampert and just like a really consistent list. And he was playing Triple Color Synergy, and he was trying just to one-shot dudes with Gardevoir. And I was like, that's super awesome. You're going to lose because you're a GX deck versus a non-GX deck. I don't care how many Swamperts you have. You can only really attack with them like twice. And if you feed me your Swamperts, I'm going to kill your consistency engine. So there's that. So basically, game 1, I actually just dead draw and lost by 2 turns. I didn't get donked. I just eventually got benched out because I couldn't get any more Pokemon, and he got like 3 Gardevoirs and he got like 2 Gardevoirs and a Ninetales and a Swampert, and just proceeded to like go Secret Spring attach. And like what sucks is Secret Spring 1 energy, Infinite Force knocks out a Blacepehlon if it has 3 energies on it, which really sucks. Believe it or not, a really good attacker in this matchup is Blacepehlon GX because he gets rid of your energies, therefore no damage happens on your side. I just didn't feel that confident trying to push him up all the time. In game 2, I did have to resort to using him at least one time, which ended up actually being pretty good. In game 2, sadly, he actually just failed to set up. So I dead drew game 1, he dead drew game 2. And basically, he failed to set up, and I just kind of steamrolled him. And then game 3, we both set up very well. We both had some really gas turns where he got like 3 stage 2s in play or something stupid like that. But he whiffed Fairy Energy for the attack. And it's not like the attack would have been like game changer or anything, but he would have gotten a knockout, which was important. I just proceeded to go, okay, Fire, Crystal, Energy Retrieval, knockout, your turn. You know, like the whole point of Blacepehlon is just to go knockout, get everything I need for a knockout, do it again. Get everything I need for a knockout, do it again. Once I do that, I win the game. His point is to go kill you, so that way it takes more stuff out of me to get a knockout. He just wasn't getting any attacks off, so I was just like, at a certain point, I was just going, okay, draw, pass, get energies, attack. Draw, pass, get energies, attack. You know, it was great. And then after I killed 2 Gardevoirs, he just kind of scooped it up. He's like, I don't got it. And he's like, it's okay, bro. We actually had a little bit of a scare in game 2 where, like, he accidentally flipped over one of his prize cards when he was grabbing my deck to go ahead and shuffle it. We immediately called the judge over, and we said, we only saw this card. We haven't touched it yet. You can just flip it back face down and shuffle it, right? And then the judge was like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Shuffle it up. It'll be a warning. It was no big deal. So no, like, cheesy little rule things happened to, like, ruin a game, because we immediately called the judge over before anything got worse. It was an easily repairable game state, and really no big deal, because we both saw the card. It's not like he only saw it and I didn't. It was just, like, revealed to both of us. So that was pretty cool. Shout out to that judge for doing a good job, and shout out to my boy Jacob. I think he actually ended the day like won. I think he tied his last round instead of won it, and if he won it, he would have made day 2 with Gardevoir. So huge shout out to him for doing so well with Gardevoir. Round 4. This is the first loss of the day. I'm going 3-0 in this tournament so far. It was an amazing start. I was feeling so confident in myself. Despite, like, a little unlucky draws here and there, you know, I expected that to happen. You always expect, like, bad draws to happen. I don't let that get to me, but I let, like, bad losses get to me. Very bad. And this is where I get a bad loss. Now, by a bad loss, I don't mean, like, an unfair, unlucky loss. No. This was I lost this game. There was no way I was winning this match in the history of the world. My opponent, Isaiah, was an amazing player. He was playing Nag. He also played a Lycanroc GX in there to try and tech against Pikarom. I thought that was super cool. But his deck was literally just steam. Like, I just lost. Okay, I'm not even going to bother telling you what happened. But basically, I just lose. I do everything I can, and I just ended up losing because his deck just straight up counters mine. He's a non-GX deck. He's weak to me. It's easier for him to kill me than it is for me to kill him. And eventually, he just gets good prize exchanges. Volcanium Prism Star is a freaking boss to try and kill. And yeah, I just kind of lose. But the thing I want to bring up here is that this is when I have my first real loss. No BS happened either. There was one game where I whiffed like enough fires to knock out his active, but like that was like 3 knockouts in the future. So like I was already really low on resources, so I kind of expected to lose a knockout here and there. But because it was a non-GX deck, I know you lose your momentum a lot. The matchup, in my opinion, is technically 50-50 because we're both non-GX decks, and really all that matters is whoever takes the first knockout. But because it's easier for him to take knockouts on me than it is for me to take knockouts on him, obviously the matchup can get a little unfavored as the game goes on. Also, I did start my Blacepehlon GX one game, but I believe I took 2 knockouts with it before it got knocked out, so I don't think it actually mattered in the sense of the prize exchange, but I don't remember. But anyway, he was an amazing player. He played the deck very well. He maxed it out for consistency, so I can't really get too mad at myself that he was able to get all the stuff he needed every single turn. You know, my deck has no disruption, so you know, there's nothing I could have done to stop him from getting everything he wanted, so there's no big point. He was thinning his deck, he was drawing the cards he needed to draw, and then he ended up winning. That's all that ever happens ever. So it was a very good loss in the sense of, well, he just played a better game of Pokemon than I did. But it was a bad loss in the sense of it ruined my confidence for the whole day because I was like, oh, there was no way I was winning that game. It's already round 4. I'm like, eee. But I did shake it off. I was ready for round 5. But here's where stuff gets a little dark. Here's where things go a little bit super south. So I played against this nice man named Scott in round 5. Super awesome dude. And he was playing Pikarom. He was playing a very interesting Pikarom list. He was playing Super Scoop Up. Flip a coin if heads, put a Pokemon from in play into your hand. Super cool deck. I really enjoyed watching it. And it was awesome. Game 1. I go first. I dead draw. I have only fires in my hand, and I have a Blacepehlon active, and I say pass. He gets a turn 1 full blitz and kills me. So that's donk. Number 2 of the day. It wasn't a particularly great one. Game 2, I straight up murdered him. Murder. I destroyed his living dream. I believe he started either Pikarom or Coco, and I just destroyed it. He then goes for a full blitz on his first turn. I go, cool. I then kill his Pikarom. With 1 prize card remaining, he has 5. He just scoops it up, and we go to game 3, as I'm sure he would ought to do. It was literally an obliteration of a game. I was doing everything. I had like double Salazzle in play. I was moving at the speed of sound. I was like, let's go, baby. That's what's up. And then game 2, I start, and also, let me put this out there. The game that I got, so the next game, I don't get donked in this game, but he plays Super Scoop Up, like I said, and he Marshadowed me turn 1. But my deck, you know, I had a Salandit in play. I went second, right? But I had Salandit and I had a dude. I went for Call for Family, got another Pokemon. I'm now safe from dying to Attackable GX. I played a Bills. I was set up after that Marshadow. It was no big deal. He goes Scoop Up, pick up the thing, Marshadow, the Dedenne, and then he just drew a bunch of cards, but he Marshadowed me twice. And then I go, cool, no big deal. Heat Factory, draw some cards, get a Salandit, boom, heal. He then goes Guzma, E-Power, kill my only Salazzle in play, scoop up, pick up some Marshadow again because he got another heads, and then goes, here you are again. I'm like, okay. And he gets rid of my Heat Factory too, I'm pretty sure. So I'm like, Welder? I get a Welder. I'm like, cool, Welder, boom, Crystal, boom, kill, attack, boom. I'm keeping track even though I've been Marshadowed 3 times. He Marshadows me again while full blitzing, and he says, this one's the one that'll do it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it is. I dead draw, I say pass, and I get benched out. I was Marshadowed 4 times in one game because he got 3 heads on Super Scoop Up. And even the turn he won, he went for his last Super Scoop Up to try and get a Dedenne because he needed to actually dig for his last E-Power to take the knockout. Because I actually killed his Pikarom the first time he attacked with it, and I was only 2 prizes away from winning, and I had the Zero Aura, in my sights. But he needed 1 more E-Power to take a knockout with Zapdos. It was a really close series, despite all the Marshadows and stuff, but ultimately I just was getting cheesed by Marshadow that game. But that was ultimately a good game. I'm not really too mad about the quadruple Marshadow in one game, but it did happen, and it was not fun. He also ran out of energies too, and he needed that E-Power, because if he didn't get his last one, he wouldn't have had enough to knock out my only Baby Blown in play. So it was actually kind of crazy. But anywho, Scott was an amazing player. I think he ended up day 2ing. I'm not entirely sure, but it was actually a really cool deck, playing scoop ups over, I think it was Order Pad. It was basically Turbo Pikarom, but instead of Order Pads, he played Scoop Up. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. You want to heal every now and then, and you want to be able to reuse effects like Dedenne, or Lele, or Marshadow. I get it. But, or Coco even. But I was like, oh, three heads in one game. That's pretty cool. And the game before, he just kind of like discarded them. I was like, I don't need these. Turns out he did. But all in all, it was a really cool deck, really nice guy, and I enjoyed playing with him nonetheless. Moving on to round 6, my third Rushazard of the day. His name was Julian. Really awesome dude. He actually was like really into. He actually owns a YouTube channel too. Oh, where's my wallet? I wrote it down. It's in my wallet over there. But it was something like I want to say Reshiram18. Spelled out like EIGHTEN on YouTube, and I think on Twitch it's 18, like the number 18. But anywho, he runs channels and stuff, and he does like puzzle games and mobile games. I thought that was super cool, and we talked a little bit about that. That was super fun. But anywho, basically, game 1 I just win by doing my things. I kill a Reshazard, I'm non-GX, and he goes, because he's playing Turbo Kiawe, so every time he Kiawes, that's basically like a free 3 prize cards for me. Because if it's in the active, I kill it. If it's not in the active, I kill whatever is in the active. He has to bring it up to attack, otherwise he's not responding to me with any other Pokemon in his deck. Because none of his other Pokemon, like Volcanion, hit 120 without playing Kukui. He actually did play Kukui, by the way, which is actually really interesting, because not a lot of Turbo Reshazard decks play Kukui, but he did. But he didn't have it for the turn that he wanted to go for Volcanion, so he had to just bring up a Reshazard and say, I hope you don't kill it. And then I did kill it, and then I won game 1. Game 2, I got donked. I got donked. He double blazed me. My only Pokemon in play was Salandit, actually, and he double blazed it for knockout. That was pretty sad. But game 3, fun fact actually, he starts a lone Reshazard, goes Kiawe pass, and then I go, oh, okay, cool. Welder, no more fires. I'm like, dang it, Blazer for 10. Didn't even get the 60. And he goes, cool, draw, and then he goes, knock it out. I had Pokemon in play, by the way, so I didn't get donked. I bring up a new one. I go, cool, boom, Welder, no fires. Oh, 10. And he goes, okay, Flare Strike. I'm like, oh, I only have a Salandit in play. What am I going to do? I get a Stretcher or a Nest Ball or something, and I get another Blacepehlon. I go, okay, attach, retreat, Cynthia, of all things, and I get a B-String and a Fiery Flint, and I'm like, boom, I had I like 2 fires in my hand. And I go, Fiery Flint, B-String, because he took 2 prize cards already, and I go attach, and then I donk him after like 4 turns of the game. Like, it was an insane thing. He shows me his hand. All he has is like Guzma and like a bunch of ways to get fire energies and like other stuff. No Pokemon search, no nothing. I'm like, dude, that's bad beats for sure. Not the greatest way that I've ever won a game, but it was kind of funny, and we kind of just like laughed about it. But he was a super nice guy, super cool dude. Hopefully I can see him again in the future if I go to more tournaments. But yeah, it was pretty much a cut and dry game at the end of the day. Like game 1, I just destroyed. Like literally, it was super free. Any GX deck or like tag team deck for this deck is just so free because you just trade so favorably, and it's so funny to me that like they don't understand like. Don't send it up. It will die. The best time to use your tag team GX is at the very end of the game when I'm low on resources. I need like 6 or 5 energies to knock that thing out. Once you've seen like 3 crystals and like 2 retrievals or something go away, it's kind of hard for me to get 5 after that. That's the best time to be like, okay, now you gotta kill it. Like Emery Taylor in the top 4 match, he sent up his Pikarom because he's like, oh, you don't have a way to get any more energies. I'm just gonna sit here and eventually full blitz you for the game. You know, that's how he won. Like, Nathaniel's like, you're right, I don't have any more. Good game, you know? And that's why a card like Victini is really good, because it's literally a deck refresh for all your fires. I don't like it, however, because it doesn't really do enough damage for me to actually get a good knockout. Sometimes you'll attack with it and you won't get a knockout, and then they'll knock it out back, and then it's just like useless. Also, I don't like putting all the fires back. I like putting only like a certain number back, which is why Recycler to me is super awesome. Because sometimes if you have like too many in there, so like if you have more than 5, you have to send back 5. But sometimes I'll put back less than 5 if there's less than 5 in there. Like I'll crystal first, and then I'll put back the rest, because I need to guarantee that I have the 3 in my hand, because that's what I need for the knockout. You know, I like being able to do that versus, you know, having to attack to return my energies. Also, I think Recycler is more proactive. It has really great synergy with the second Beast Ring, as well as my Fiery Flint. Round 7. Oh, this is by far the worst round of the tournament. Okay, so game 1, I draw from my hand. I go first. No, sorry, he goes first. Yes, I get let loose into triple Cynthia. I get let loose into triple energy Cynthia, and then I go to attach to a clown, a baby clown. I attach, and then I Cynthia. I get 0 fires and 0 supporters. I literally get like, it's crazy. I get like Pokegear, Recycler, Retrieval, Field Blower, and like Bill. No, not Bill. Welder. I get Welder. I actually do get Welder, but I have no fires in my hand or in the discard pile, so I can't use Welder. And then I go, oh, okay. And all I have in play is a clown, right? His turn. He's Turbo Pikarom. He goes and he does things. I don't get donked. Thank God, I don't. He says pass. And I go, oh, okay, cool. I draw. If it's not a fire or any way to get one, the game's over. I have no way to draw cards. I have no way to do anything. I draw. It's a Cynthia. I'm like, oh, wonderful. Boom. I Cynthia. I crud you not. I get triple Welder, Bill, Field Blower, Retrieval. Almost the exact same hand, except even more unplayable now. And I just immediately scoop up and we're like, we're going to game 2. And in game 2, I start Lone Salandit and 6 Fire Energies, and I say pass. And then he goes, oh, I'm sorry. He flashes me the Volkner, he shows me a Raikou, he starts Raikou, he goes Energy, E-Power, knock you out for 60. It was like a 5-minute series, and I'm like, oh, cool, that's my 3rd loss of the day. I'm officially out of contention for day 2. Feels so good, man. It was not that great. It was, whew. I still play it out, though, the rest of my rounds, because I'm there to meet people, I'm there to have fun, and really there's nothing else for me to do. So, yeah, but Michael was an amazing man. I've actually played against him in the past. Really nice dude. Amazing talk with him. If you're watching this video, pleasure to meet you still. Even though that kind of cruddy game happened, it was an amazing experience nonetheless, and did tell me the problems that I had with my deck. But anywho, moving on to round 8, I played against a young man whose name I forgot to get. I'm so sorry, but he was from Brazil. He was playing Zap Beast. Finally, a Zap Beast. I was actually so looking forward to playing against Zap Beast, as it was the deck that I tested the most against using this deck, and it was also a deck that I thought I was extremely favored against, because, you know, Zapdos needs like 2 E-powers to knock out your baby Blacepehlon, which is super awesome. So it's kind of like that idea of Nag Quag. You know, in theory, the matchup is 50-50 because you're both just non-GX and you just trade knockouts, but it's harder for him to take knockouts on me than it is for me to take knockouts on him. So that's where, like, you can get that little advantage in the middle of any kind of game, and that's super cool. And that's basically how these games all wrap up. Like, we had like 3 really close games because it's a non-GX deck versus a non-GX deck. You know, they're gonna take prize cards. I'm gonna take prize cards. He's super consistent. He chases my Salazzles. I kill a Zapdos. I keep a baton in play. I get enough energies in play. I win off of Burst GX. Boom. That's game 1. Game 2. He goes first. He actually wins by killing all my Salandits as they're coming into play. I never get to set up a Salazzle, and then he goes for a Marshadow in the mid-game, and then I whiff a knockout in the middle of the game, I go scoop, because I'm like, I need enough time for game 3. These games are pretty long. And then, the same kind of thing happens in game 1. He kind of whiffs a knockout here and there. I eventually get 2 knockouts in a row, where he can't get one, and I'm like, yes, the game's over, pretty much. I go to 3 prize cards. I go to 2 prize cards. They call time. I take a knockout, and then I go for Burst GX. Boom, I won on turn 2 of time, And yeah, that was a really close series, and it was amazing to get to play with someone from Brazil. He didn't speak that much English, but good for me. I've had a lot of practice. I also speak Spanish, which is what he spoke, so every now and then I was able to understand him, and he was understanding me just fine, no problem. He could understand English just fine. He just couldn't really say all the words that I could. But I actually have a lot of experience playing with people that have communication barriers, because I actually teach deaf people how to play card games, or I just work with deaf people a lot in general at school and just in life, because I have a lot of deaf friends. Fun fact about me, humble brag, or weird flex. I think it's a weird flex. It's not really a humble brag. Weird flex. So I actually I was actually like pointing to stuff. You know, there was like really no communication barrier. We were playing pretty fast with each other. It was basically like we were speaking the same language. But judges would actually come over to us, and like no words were being said, but like we were both perfectly understanding what was happening in the game. It was kind of funny because they're like, wow, these guys are moving quick. It's actually really cool. So it was awesome to meet you. I'm sorry that I never caught your name. I definitely did. I just don't remember it. And yeah, that was round 8. And that's actually when I stopped taking notes. Actually, I don't really have any more notes here, because round 9, I was kind of like feeling really sad, because like round 9, you realize, oh, everyone's playing for their win-and-ins, and I'm just kind of still here playing. You know, everyone's playing still, because like you want that shot at like top 256 or top like 128. I don't think anyone could have gotten top 128 if you didn't make it to day 2, but definitely 256 for people that want some points. I ended up playing against a Blacepehlon GX deck of Naganadal stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Easy matchup. Let's go. Game 1, I got donked, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna scoop. I'm like, you win, bro. I was just done. So I actually just ended up getting donked, and then I said, congratulations, you win. Good job. He went welder, and then he went donk, you win. I was like, cool. I packed it up, and then I went to Buffalo Wild Wings to drown my sorrows in Parmesan garlic and fried pickles. That is the end of my day 1 experience at the NAIC. While it is not the best that I've ever performed, it certainly was not the worst, and it's also a very good learning experience for me, because I did kind of make a last-minute choice based on decks. You guys will find out more about that during the actual NAIC vlog. However, I do not regret my decision. I just regret my execution. There were little things here and there, you know, like I didn't maximize my sequencing properly. I didn't guarantee cards when I could have, but I will say this. Every game that I won. There was no question that I was doing the correct moves at the correct time to lead into a sequence that ended up me winning the game. All the games that I lost were either due to me just not being able to combat the aggression that my opponent was doing towards me. It also was, or it was just me losing. Like, oh, I got donked. Cool. I didn't draw a way to get a Pokemon, and because of the rules of the game, that means I lose. You know, that is why I lost. Which that's heartbreaking, because, you know, it ruins your experience, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Bad beats and unluckiness happens to everybody. It just happened to me a little bit more so than maybe other people for this tournament, and I can't get too mad at that, and I won't let it get me down. I enjoyed my time. I played some old format. I played some Pokemon Sword and Shield demos. I hung out with friends. I took some naps. I worked out because I had some extra time, and yeah, it was still an amazing experience. I can't wait for you guys to hear more about that later on this Friday when I show you guys the vlog. But anywho, that's it for my tournament report / deck profile for the NAIC. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you watched the video this far, please comment down below NAIC vlog 2019 hype, or just hype in general, just the word hype, and I'll know what you're talking about. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you all next time, and as always remember to work hard, rest easy, and live well. Peace out.